Welcome to Crocheting and Coffee, which are my two favorite things, crocheting, and this is my coffee mug, which keeps my coffee warm for a long time, which I love. I was thinking about doing this video because I thought my mom used to crochet these kinds of afghans or blankets, and I would sit with her while she would crochet, and we just talk for hours sometimes while she crocheted. And I thought, well, I miss her, number one. My mom passed away a number of years ago. But I wondered whether anyone feels like I do and that they wish they had their mom to talk to about what's going on in the world right now. I wonder what my mom would think about all of the things happening in the world right now. I wish that she were still alive for her advice. So if you're one of those people who wishes that you still had your mom to talk to, or maybe you just wish you had a sister to talk to. I love doing this app called Marco Polo with my sister, where she will send me like videos like this sort of and tell me about her life, and then I'll send her videos back, so that I work a crazy schedule. So sometimes I get up in the middle of the night so I can watch those videos when it's convenient for me, and she can do the same. But I thought, what about the people who don't have a sister, don't have someone to Marco Polo with, but they would like someone to hang out with and someone to talk about things with? Maybe I could do that. Maybe we could just hang out here together for a while, and I could be company for you and you for me during this time, because I think so many of us are stuck at home. I've been working from home now since March 3rd, but I have a family at home with me. So I have children who are still loud, and my husband at home, and some of you don't have a family at home. Some of you are home by yourselves, and that I think would be even more difficult. I know you can Zoom and Teams and that kind of thing, but I remember the times that I've lived alone, back when I was in college and when I've lived alone in my adult life. And I liked it. I liked parts of it, but if I had to be alone, if I couldn't go to work in my normal way, if I didn't see people except when they were behind a mask at the grocery store or something, if you weren't allowed to hug people like you used to do, I would feel a real longing, I think. I feel lucky in that I can hug my husband, hug my sons, although my younger son, I call him a drive-by hugger. He's the kind of hugger, and he's a head hugger. He comes in close with his head and sort of sticks his head up against your chest, which is not the most comfortable hug. It just sort of, but he means well. That's his kind of hug. But my older son, my middle son, Ethan, he is a fantastic hugger. I feel very happy for his wife if he ever marries, because he's the kind of hugger. He's a big lug of a kid to begin with. He's 6'4", 220, and when he hugs you, it's just, wow. You are completely engulfed in his body, and he's warm and snuggly. Even though he's 15, he's still snuggly. I hope he always keeps that. So if I'm ever feeling down, or even just because, he'll come in and give me a hug. But I know some people don't have that. So I thought, I might just crochet. I'm going to crochet anyway, which I love doing. Why not just talk for a while on a video, and in case this is of any benefit to anyone, then I would be all the happier to have shared it with you. I love to crochet. My mother taught me, but that's not the reason I love it. She taught me a lot of things that I'm not good at and don't love to do. Like she was a baker. She was a great baker. I do not bake at all. I love to eat baked goods, but I do not bake. I crochet because I have, I'm sure, like ADHD. I am very, when I'm watching a movie, it's really hard for me to not pick up my phone. To not pick up my phone and check the messages, the text, the email, the Facebook, the Twitter, all that stuff. And that makes me feel like I'm distracting myself from the movie experience with my husband. We watch a lot of shows now that I'm home, but when we're watching together, I want to be paying attention. I want to be watching with him. But I used to get sort of anxious to just focus on the one thing. Now that I crochet, I just crochet and my hands can keep busy while I'm watching the movie, and I'm completely engaged in the experience of watching the movie. So crocheting has been a really wonderful thing for me to help me with my anxiety too, which I just don't know. This time, if you can hear that noise in the background, I'm sorry about that. That's my younger son who has 3 friends over to play today, and I hope they are being good boys. If they are not, then you will have an interruption. I do feel anxious, like I know we all do, about the world. How can you not feel anxious? I feel anxious thinking about the decision about whether to let my kids go back to school in the fall, which is, just a few weeks away now. We're watching here in Utah, where I live, as the different school districts make their decisions about how they want to handle it based on what they know now, and this may change. So and I wouldn't want to be these school superintendents. I would not want to have to make these decisions. Can you imagine trying to keep kindergartners or first graders in masks all day? I cannot. And then I think about the teachers who have special needs kids. My oldest daughter has Down syndrome, and her teachers, when she was in school, she's 31 now, but when she was in school, God bless those teachers. They are just angels, the special needs teachers. But Laurel will wear a mask, my oldest daughter. She will wear one if it's something she really wants to do. So if she's going bowling or going to do something she really wants to do, she will wear a mask. But if it was something where like a teacher had to try and get her to wear a mask every day, all day long, I would think that teacher would have quite a challenge with that. So I think special needs teachers are going to have a particular challenge. Not to mention just your regular kids who are misbehaving, or the kids whose parents think it's not a big deal and tell them, yeah, wear the mask, don't wear the mask. So then you've got kids who are sort of built into to not follow the rules because they're not getting that at home, which leads me to talk about this. Oh, that's my dog. She wants to get out of the room. Molly, you have to stay in here with me for now. I don't understand why this is political. Do you understand why this is political? I do not understand why wearing a mask, which is a physical, oh, Aiden, you're so noisy, which is a purely physical health issue, became political in this country. And I'm trying to think of another time when something like this, a health issue, became political. I'm sure many of you probably know better than I do about a time in our history when maybe vaccines, and we'll have that issue to deal with, hopefully, if they find one. And that may also be something that is somewhat political in nature, but the wearing a mask thing just feels like such a no-brainer. And it allows us to keep businesses open. Molly, wait for me. It allows us to keep businesses open. So wearing a mask is good for business. I would think that people would be even more inclined to wear a mask, because that way we don't have so many cases. We don't have to shut down our whole city and town and society. We really have a challenge here right now, in that if we don't get our numbers down, they're saying by Labor Day, maybe they'll have to change what the thoughts are regarding school, because I just don't know how they're going to handle it. So as a parent, I'm of two minds. The first part is, I hear my children. They miss their friends. Of course they miss their friends. They miss their friends, and a big part of their growing up at this age, one is going to be in 8th grade and one in 10th grade. They want to be with their friends. I completely get that. And they want to learn in school. Aiden, my youngest, he learns better in school, no question about it, than he does with distance learning. But the second part is that dang virus. I realize that kids, by and large, can fight off that virus really well. Molly, do you want to come up and be with me? Molly up, Molly up, Molly up. Sit, 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 sit. This is Molly. I know that, no, don't play with the camera. We won't have any friends. I know that kids fight off the virus by and large really well. But what if? I can't help but have my mind go to what if. What if my child is the one child, or the 1 in 100 or whatever, who is really hurt by the virus, or worse. So I'm of two minds on that issue, as I think so many parents are. And then I guess we just wait and see. If they go back to school and there's a huge outbreak, we won't have to be having this discussion, because I'm sure they'll close the school and there'll be distance learning again. This is our challenge. This is just our challenge. And I keep thinking about my mom. I've been missing her recently. I think it's when something serious happens. It reminds me of when years and years ago, I think this was like the first Gulf War. And I had just started working at a news radio station here in Salt Lake City. And I needed to call my dad just to find out if everything was okay. Because the world felt like it was coming apart a little bit. And when the world feels like it's coming apart, you want to talk to your dad. Like on 9/11, my father was still alive. And I got to talk to him that night, which was really helpful. Just to have him say, everything's going to be okay. Which is what you want your parents to say. Everything's going to be okay. And what I say to my kids now, and I mean it, everything's going to be okay. Even though we've never lived through this before, so we don't really know what the outcome will be. But I'm one of those people that believes it will be all right in the end. And if it's not all right, it's not the end. Was that John Lennon who said that, I think? Can't remember. So I was thinking about how this is, what are they doing? I think they're playing hide and seek in the house, but that always makes me nervous, because they'll go into the garage and God knows what they're messing with in the garage when they're playing hide and seek. They're just a little too old to be playing hide and seek. Okay, I may have to cut this short and go check on them, but before I do, I want to share this with you. Thinking about my mom and dad, who were born during the Depression era in the 1920s, and of course lived through World War II. And I think about the stories that my mom would tell me, and my dad too, but he didn't share so many stories like this. But my mom was born into a very large family. There were 13 children in her family, 2 that passed away very young, just as babies. But they were so poor. And my mother talked about food rationing. And, you could only buy so many eggs, or you could only have so much meat, or you couldn't get a pair of nylons or something, and all the things that they went through during the war. And I, of course, I was born during the Vietnam War in the 1960s, and have been aware of each of our wars since then, but during none of those wars did we ever experience that kind of thing. They were terrible and tragic, and still are. We're still at war in Afghanistan and around the globe in different places where we stand guard. But we don't have that experience of rationing, of feeling it personally, unless you're a military family, and that's such a small percentage of it. Now they bear the burden of the nation. So as I was thinking about what we're going through with the coronavirus, I thought, this is sort of our thing that we'll tell stories to, that my children will tell stories to their children about. Oh, when I was a kid, we couldn't go outside. We couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't go to the movies. My mom wouldn't let us do anything. And they closed the schools. It was fantastic. But then they kept them closed for so long. I got so bored. I wanted to go back. And there were all these numbers on the TV of these people who had died. And I couldn't believe how many people died. And I didn't even think it was real. But my mom said it was real, and I just couldn't believe it. And I had to do all my work from home. And it just went on and on and on. And we had to wear a face mask everywhere we went. And President Trump blamed it on the Democrats, and the Democrats blamed it on President Trump. And it was just a chocolate mess. This is our story to tell. This is our societal, global burden. This is our challenge of this generation, all the generations alive today. And I hope we are learning as we're going. I heard someone talk the other day about mask culture, which my next to oldest daughter, lives in Tokyo, Japan. And like in China and other places in that part of the world, it's a very common thing to see people wearing masks. Very common. Hold on just a second, I gotta check my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Very common to see people wearing masks, not just since coronavirus, but, for a long time with other viruses that they've had. And just in general, it's a part of their culture. You have a cold, you go outside, you wear a mask. It's just a thing people do to be considerate of their fellow human beings. And no one thinks twice. You see someone on the subway or walking down the street or whatever with a mask on. There's no political statement going on. They're just being considerate of their fellow man. Or, we don't need to know why they're wearing a mask. Because people in Japan, as I read in an article this week, have known for longer than we just figured out that the coronavirus was airborne, that it wasn't just coming from droplets, that it also was airborne. And because of that wearing a mask is not just something we do to protect our neighbor and the people around us, it also protects us. It protects the wearer to a certain degree because it protects it coming back to us through the air. So I hope in the future, while I hope we don't have to wear masks all the time, and I hope we can go back to being a society where hugging is allowed. I keep losing my count. 5, 6, 7. I miss hugging because I'm sort of a hugger. And I miss being able to hug my neighbors and friends, and especially my best friend. I miss hugging her so much, but I can't risk it with her because she is a person that has some health issues. And so we have to be very careful to make sure she doesn't get COVID. So we don't hug. We air hug. We air hug from a distance. But I hope when this is over, we will change in some good ways, that we can adopt mask culture around the world, that you won't ever see someone going outside with a cold, sneezing in their hand, that they'll have a mask on to keep those droplets from going any other place. Wouldn't that be a considerate thing to do? And why should it look funny? Maybe if we do more of that, we'll keep each other. I hope that really good hand washing has been something that's been thoroughly adopted by everyone of every age. Maybe some of those things. But then I hope we can get back to hugging. So, I've been going on and on probably long enough, huh? I hope that just spending out and spending a little time and talking with someone who might feel like a neighbor or a sister or your mom if you're younger takes the edge off, or just feels good to you on some level, because it feels good to me to just spend time with people. And I will now have another sip of my coffee, which I have not had before. And I will wish you a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time for more Crocheting and Coffee.